On today's show, you're going to meet Sarena Parmar, an actress and emerging playwright. Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner, and this is Extraordinary Women TV. Sarena Parmar is an actress and emerging playwright. Her TV acting career began to take off after she landed the lead role in the Gemini-nominated series How to Be Indie. Since then, Serena's gone on to guest star in several Canadian dramas, including Degrassi, The Next Generation, Flashpoint, and The Border. She appears on the stage, including productions such as Lost Voices, Hamlet, and my very favorite, Romeo and Juliet. Hello, Serena. Nice to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, of course, not to mention that you just did a movie, Radio Rebel.
I did, yeah. I just did a movie for the Disney Channel called Radio Rebel, and it's premiering all over. I think we just premiered in Singapore this month, and we've already been in Canada and the US, and it's going really well. It stars Debbie Ryan. She's a shy kind of DJ, or a shy girl who's moonlighting as a DJ, and I play her quirky best friend.
Well, congratulations. It's really great.
Thanks.
Now, you live in Toronto, and you grew up in Kelowna, BC,
Yes.
and I know that Kelowna is in your heart.
Yes, I love it so much. I mean, the thing about BC is there's so much nature around you, right? So you're surrounded by mountains and water and lakes, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. All my family's there, so I miss it a lot.
And your family, they're orchardists. Orchardists.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They grow peaches and apricots and plums and cherries and everything you can imagine, strawberries, blueberries, and they sold to Sunripe for a really long time, and we were orchardists back in India as well. So.
Well, you know, you're making me really hungry. It sounds really great. Now, you know, you're a young actress. When you got your first role,
Yeah.
what was going on in your mind and your emotions that day when you finally got that word, like, yes,
Right.
you've got this role?
Well, I was still in theater school when I booked my first role, and it was with the Canadian Stage Company doing their Shakespeare in the Park. And I had auditioned for it maybe 3 months ago, and I had forgotten all about it because I thought, oh, I just do this audition to practice my auditioning skills because I was still in school and no one's going to hire like a kid. And then I got a call a few months later, and I remember being in my bedroom in Montreal where I was studying, and after I was like, sounded very professional on the phone. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, the non-money you're paying me would be just fine because I was an apprentice at the time. And then as soon as she hung up the phone with me, I was screaming and jumping all over my bedroom because, you know, the Canadian Stage Company is a huge theater company here, and I just felt so lucky and wondering if they made a mistake in hiring me so young, but it was a great experience.
And that really is, I mean, you got sort of, you got the hunger, I suppose, for acting at that time, and that really sort of was that point that propelled you to really want to have a career in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I had been acting since I was about 12, doing community shows and stuff back in Kelowna, and went to school because I knew it was something I wanted to do, but when I got that job, it was a big marker of, oh, maybe I'm going to be able to make a living at this professionally, and obviously there's been ups and downs since then, but I've just been really lucky, and I think coming into the gate so kind of hot, I guess, was just a great experience as far as meeting people in the industry and having a support system right away.
Did you believe in yourself enough at that point to say, yeah, I can do that, and I can be a really great actress, and I can get gigs, and I can make it happen?
I think I always thought there was something special in me that I had to share, which I think every actor has to believe that on some level, or you wouldn't be able to do it. But whether or not I would be as successful as some of my classmates, I mean, you know, school is such a tough thing. You're with like the same 12 people every day, and there's always class favorites, and some people are overlooked, and so I really wondered if I would be one of the ones to kind of bust it through and still be acting, you know, well into my 30s, 40s, 50s. All that kind of thing. And
of course you got a great gig on Degrassi, The Next Generation.
Yes. Yeah, that was Vera Santa Maria, who also writes How to Be Indie, which is a show that I was also on, was writing on Degrassi, and she wrote this character of Farah. And she was the arranged bride-to-be of a character named Sav on the show, and so she asked me to come on and to take that part, which was really a great experience.
Well, you know, you're South Asian.
Yeah.
Your family's from India. How has that come into play in terms of your career success?
I think when I first was coming out of school and people didn't know who I was yet, it helped open up a lot of doors, because the South Asian pool when I was coming out of school was quite a bit smaller than it is now. So any role that required South Asian girl, I would go up for, even though my resume maybe wasn't as heavy as some of the other girls, right? And so that allowed me to get seen by a lot of casting directors, and then How to Be Indie happened, I think, you know, kind of because of that as well. And then I started to gain experience and things like that. But as I've been working on more sets and taking on more roles that are, you know, for a specifically South Asian girl, it gets hard when, you know, you're asked to do things that are maybe not culturally accurate the way you know them, and there's a really fine line, and they're trying to make entertainment and something that's, you know, looks appealing or has a lot of drama to it, which is maybe not always accurate to the culture. So, you know, it's hard and it's scary to know when to kind of mention something, because for myself at least, and everybody is different, I don't want to represent my culture in an inaccurate way. Just, you know, to kind of be a role model in that way is really important to me. So.
Well, that's really interesting. Are there a lot of roles for South Asian women?
I think so.
Actors?
I think India is really hot right now, right? You've got Slumdog Millionaire came out, and people are going crazy for Bollywood dance and Indian food, and so I think there's a lot more. It's being translated into a lot more South Asian roles, right? You're starting to see, instead of, you know, grocery store owners or cab drivers, you're starting to see South Asians as doctors, lawyers, politicians, teachers, right? They're becoming more kind of elite or high class in the roles that they're being portrayed in TV, which is great. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you have also been working on is, which is something that I think is really interesting about you, is you write. You're an emerging playwright.
Yeah. This is
an interesting part of your career. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first thing I ever wrote was while I was still in school, and we had to do a 10-minute solo piece as part of our kind of character development study to be able to create a character. And then I got a lot of positive feedback from that, and I always kind of dabbled in it, but on the side, because, you know, acting was taking up a lot of my time and getting started in the industry here in Toronto. And then about a year ago now, I had the idea to do an adaptation of The Cherry Orchard, Chekhov's Cherry Orchard.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just, you know, taking something really simple, small play, no big deal, 12 characters. But anyways, my family had recently cut down our orchard in Kelowna, and so I thought, oh, I see that place so differently now after we cut down our orchard. And so I've been working on that, and I've been working with Cahoots Theatre Company here. They've been a really great, like, kind of support and mentoring company for me. But yeah, setting it in the 1970s Okanagan, and, you know, looking at kind of the huge shift that happened when Trudeau mania was in full effect. And my mother and everyone I talked to loves Trudeau so much because he opened up immigration in a really big way, and he kind of started this multicultural policy that we have now. So looking at that as a huge shift in kind of the Canadian consciousness, and kind of infusing that into the play, and telling the story about this immigrant family.
So as a writer then, an emerging playwright, does that help you with your acting? Like, does it enable you to go deeper and have a better understanding of the work you're doing in television and film as an actor?
Yeah, I mean, I think one definitely informs the other, right?
Yeah.
So because I've got such great acting experience, now I can kind of create characters that are really full, because I can understand, you know, the different dimensions that I've seen when I've played characters in the past. And then, you know, when I go into my acting work, I can start to see scripts for their structure and for their arc and the action that's happening in them. So it's kind of like a back and forth between the two, and they both inform each other. So. And
of course, I mean, you're on the stage as well.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer to be in front of the camera? Do you prefer to be on the stage? I mean, I know that it requires complete different skills, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, where the truth is coming from in you, whatever that is or whatever that means to you, it is the same for acting on stage or camera. But, you know, there's little nuances are different, or the technique might be a little bit different. You've got to turn out for the stage. Your voice obviously has to be louder. And people always ask me, they're like, what do you like more? And I don't know. I grew up doing theater, and I think I'm always going to have a really big love for that, especially Shakespeare and like the Greek tragedies. And I just love the epicness of them, and it takes a lot of athleticism to deliver that text, which I like the challenge of that. So,
that's really interesting. What about your fear of getting on the stage and fear of memorizing lines and then making sure that you deliver them, and I mean that causes so much anxiety for actors. I mean, you hear these stories of some of the legends and of our time, and how they've just would have breakdowns.
Trying to memorize all that text and
then be terrified. Marilyn Monroe, she was always forgetting and being terrified of forgetting. So how do you deal with that?
I think, it's so funny because I get more nervous in film and TV because there's less rehearsal time, or sometimes no rehearsal time. And for auditions, you're rehearsing in your bedroom, and then you get 1 or 2 takes in front of the camera during your audition. So that I find really stressful, versus theater, you've got like 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks if you're lucky, to memorize your lines, so it can kind of sink into your body. But it's just laser focus and breathing, and don't psych yourself out, right? Like that's the biggest thing, because it's your own mind games that are playing with you and making you nervous and making you forget, right? Because you think you don't know, but actually your body does remember. So if I just trust that, then usually it goes pretty well. Sometimes there's some train wrecks, but.
Now, Serena, we're going to take a quick break, and that means it's my good to know minute, and I know you've got a great success tip.
Yes, my success tip is to be detailed. So if you have a goal or something you want to achieve, to just be as specific as possible with the different steps you need to achieve that goal. And I know for me, when I've had big goals that have seemed so far to reach, the more I can break it down and be specific on how to get there, the easier it's been to achieve those goals.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Sarena Parmar, actress and emerging playwright. Let's stay where you are. Welcome back to the show. I'm speaking with Sarena Parmar, actress and emerging playwright. And you also are an ambassador for Because I Am a Girl.
Yes, I am.
That's Plan Canada. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So that's a initiative campaign from Plan Canada, and it's talking all about women's rights, so empowering women and looking at gender equality here in Canada, and then also on a more global scale.
So what do you do as an ambassador for the program?
Me specifically, I work with a lot of youth, so a lot of teen and preteen girls, and they have something called the Because I Am a Girl clubs. And so what that is they've started an initiative where girls can set up clubs inside their schools. And Because I Am a Girl has made up modules talking about different topics like money management, self-esteem, all that kind of stuff, how to deal with conflict. And then it gives them kind of guidelines and a structure so that they can talk about those issues on a global scale, and then also how it affects them. Yeah, so I go and speak with those girls.
So why is it for you, what is it inside of you that speaks to this, to the need of human rights and women's rights and children's rights? What is it inside of you that really resonates with that?
I think I was raised by a single mother, and she did everything. She was so amazing. She, was doing the cooking and the cleaning and all that kind of stuff, driving me and my sister around. But she also, mowed the lawn. My mom knows how to drywall, plumb, do electrical. Like, she can do so much. And so then when I kind of went out into the world and I noticed, like, women are not being given the same credit as men sometimes, or why can't people see that women are capable of so much more than we're seen as, it made me really pissed off. So I contacted Because I'm a Girl, because I just think it's so important. I mean, women make up 52% of the population, and we're a huge untapped resource if you look at us globally. If you think you have half of your population that's maybe stuck at home or tending to the kids and not giving the opportunity to go to school when they can really help propel their countries forward, it's such a shame. So
now, for you, in terms of what you're working on now, in your film and TV, let's talk about what's on your plate and where you want to go, with what your vision for you is in your career.
Right. Well, I mean, I think I would still love to keep a balance between doing film and television and doing theater, and just contributing to both. I mean, strong roles, really like strong women roles, really interest me. They're complex. You know, I think of like Meryl Streep in The Iron Lady, or even, you know, Juno was a great film for women.
Oh yeah,
so,
that
so
really
many
was.
different layers. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So finding roles like that and just trying to present myself as an intelligent lady. Do you know what I mean? Because so much of what we're getting fed in the media for women is not that. And
did you have a role model of a woman who was an actress or actor when you were young? Did you? Was there someone that you, in any way, whether it's through books or someone personally, or that someone that you saw in the films and television, that you looked at and you watched them through their career, and you would say, I want to do that one day. I want to be like that.
I don't know. I mean, I think when I was younger, I couldn't see the mechanics behind the machine, right? So to see that you even have a trajectory in a career, I couldn't see that. But then as I got older, I look at people like Sarah Polley, who's an amazing filmmaker, and she started as an actor. And I remember she was in a movie called Go way back in the 90s, and it kind of propelled her into this young starlet kind of thing. And she decided that she didn't want to do that and wanted to keep working on kind of more gritty, independent stuff. And I just think to have the cojones to stick to what you see as your vision for your career, and then now she goes on and makes these beautifully complex movies as a female director, which there are so few of. I just think that's amazing.
Certainly admirable, isn't she?
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Now, what would you do if you think that, you know, if you ended up being a big star one day?
Yeah.
I mean, for you, how would that impact your family?
My sister's hilarious. She's like, if you ever get famous, I'm not being friends with you anymore. I'm like, thanks, thank you, sister. So she's not so thrilled. But God, it's hard. I look at the paparazzi and how they can kind of really cloud over your life and kind of get in there and not having personal space. It's
because
hard.
Big stars give up their privacy, don't they?
Yeah.
And that is probably one of the biggest drawbacks to stardom, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, not being able to have a stronger connection with your family because you're working all the time and there's so many demands being made on, you know, who you are and everything like that.
So Serena, for you, what would success, if you were to take your life from everything that you've done, what would you say success to you would actually look like?
Geez, I think in my career, if I had the opportunity to choose roles that were always challenging or scared me a little bit, I mean, that's what I want to look for, so that I can keep growing as a person and as an actor and continue to be challenged in what I've chosen to do. Obviously, you know, we're not always in a position where we're so lucky to be able to choose all of our roles, but that would be amazing. And then just, you know, to have a strong connection to my family and good friends around me so that I can stay grounded and have a happy life. Like, it's such a tough industry and there's so much rejection, and so...
How do you deal with that rejection?
Shake it off, shake it off. You just gotta shake it off.
Yeah, because like, how can you not take it personally? I mean, I hear actors say it's not personal, it's not personal.
Yeah.
But how can it really not be personal?
I mean, it's a huge thing, and it was a huge thing for me to realize that, like, my job, and part of my job is my appearance, is not who I am. And so when you're able to separate the two and see yourself when you're working as an actor as a product, which is kind of what we are, is different from who I am as a person, and, you know, what I do in my private life. Those is two separate things, and when you get rejected, you know, you don't take it as personally. It always sucks, but
that's a really good place to come from, isn't it? Because that becomes a very unhealthy point for many actors, you know, when they begin to really take on that rejection. Yeah, and you know, it happens to everybody, and everybody's careers has high points and low points, and it's hard sometimes when you're in the middle of that low point, but you know, it's how many times you can pick yourself up. That's who's going to stay in the game, right? So you got to keep picking yourself up. If there could be one well-known, well-recognized actress from anywhere around the world who could just be plunked down, sitting next to you right now,
Yes.
that you could meet, who would that person be?
Meryl Streep, absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? She's amazing.
Yeah.
I think she's been nominated for so many Academy Awards. I wonder if it's not the most of any woman, but I don't know that for sure.
Actually, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, I believe
I mean,
so.
the way that she can just transform herself and take on roles and tics, and she's so intelligent. You have to be so intelligent to be able to do that, take on such a diverse amount of roles. But yeah, oh.
That's really, I mean, that would probably be one of my choices as well.
We'll
Meryl
interview
Streep.
her together.
Yeah, that's
we'll
right.
Say, hey, Meryl.
Yeah, and we'll remind ourselves, remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so now for you, is there anything that we would like to just express that we haven't touched on? We've got a minute.
Oh man, what could we talk about? Well, you know, one thing I do want to talk about, going back to Because I'm a Girl, and we talked about it a little bit before, is how aware girls are now. Like, it's just, it really blows my mind when I go and speak to these young ladies, how much they know already about, you know, what the media is feeding them, and how I was so oblivious to that. And I mean, we were talking a little bit about how it's because there was no education behind that. Like, media literacy just wasn't happening.
And in my generation, which I won't tell you which generation that was or is, you know, I didn't grow up with the internet. And today, young girls they're all over the internet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is their lives.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, they're inundated by media and messages all the time.
Yeah. So I read a really interesting kind of article that talked about, you know, young people are consuming 10 hours of media a day, be it from like YouTube, radio, MP3 players, whatever, MP4 players. Ooh, sorry. Anyways, but the more a young girl watches TV, so starting from Teletubbies, and as she consumes more and more and more up until, you know, she's 18 and watching HBO, the smaller her view the smaller her view becomes of what she can achieve in the world. I just think that's so telling about like the messages that we're feeding us too as women, grown women. It's amazing that we don't even realize.
Yeah, no, it's so true. We really are so consumed with it and consumed by it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In a way.
So it's anyways crazy. I've been reading a lot of stats lately because I just did a talk about women in media to some girls on the weekend, and it just, so many numbers, they just blew my mind. So anyways, that's what's on my brain right now.
Well, Serena, you know, it's been such a pleasure having you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I really enjoyed this time getting to know you better. And I wish you all the best with all that you do. And I look forward to being able to come to one of your plays one day.
Yes, that would be amazing. I'll get you a ticket.
Okay, good. I'll hold you to it.
Okay.
I've been speaking with Sarena Parmar. She's an actress and emerging playwright. You can find out more about her on my website at extraordinarywomentv.com. You'll see this interview, her bio, and certainly more information. If you're interested in more information about the show, I do encourage you to visit the website. You can contact me. I'm on Twitter, lots of places actually to find me. Well, if you are interested in transforming your life, I hope the story has inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. See you soon.